Second part of tracheostomy, I will be describing on complications of tracheostomy, tracheostomy care, percutaneous tracheostomy, and cricothyroidotomy. Let's discuss about complications of tracheostomy. As like other procedures, tracheostomy is not free of complications. Complications might occur during the surgery. They are called as immediate complications. They might occur within first few days of surgery, called as intermediate complications, and complications which occur after weeks or months are called late complications. Immediate complications might be primary hemorrhage. Hemorrhage might be from neck vessels or from the thyroid isthmus, air embolism, cardiac arrest, blood aspiration to the trachea, carbon dioxide withdrawal apnea. That is important because the patient is in airway obstruction and there will be carbon dioxide retention within the body. As the patient undergoes tracheostomy, then there will be carbon dioxide to wash out from the body that leads to apnea. As we know, carbon dioxide is respiratory stimulant. Injury to apical pleura leading to pneumothorax, sometimes recurrent laryngosal paralysis or esophageal trauma might be there. Therefore, you should always follow the midline during tracheostomy and you have to palpate the trachea time by time in every steps of surgery. Intermediate complications, reactionary and secondary hemorrhage are usually not very common. Blockage of tracheostomy tube or displacement of tracheostomy tube is one of the noted complications in the first few days of surgery. Subcutaneous emphysema and pneumothorax might occur immediately or in the intermediate time. As I have already discussed in part 1, tracheitis and crusting. Crusting is more common during first few days of tracheostomy. As we know, there is dry air entering to trachea and that might lead to crusting. After some time, patient gets used to for it, there will be less chance of crust formation. Therefore, the patient has to take steam inhalation through the tracheostomy and we have to keep a single layer of wet gauze piece in the tracheostomy stoma. Atelectasis and lung abscess are not uncommon and there might be wound infection. Late complications occur after weeks or months of tracheostomy. They are subglottic stenosis when the patient has high tracheostomy or when there is injury to the cricoid cartilage. Then tracheal stenosis when there is injury to trachea. Tracheoarterial or tracheovenous fistula is not uncommon and patient starts bleeding from the tracheostomy. Tracheoesophageal fistula is also a complication of long-term tracheostomy tube. Persistent tracheocutaneous fistula, that is, when you decannulate, the fistula does not close down. Decannulation difficulty will be described later on. And tracheostomy wound scar or keloid when the patient are prone to keloid formation. Sometimes metallic tube corrosion and fragment aspiration to the lungs. This is rarely seen. We have seen 1 or 2 cases of tube corrosion and fragment aspiration. How to take care of tracheostomy? There is a separate topic called as routine tracheostomy care. I shall be describing few steps only. During tracheostomy suction, patient is given 100% oxygen and the cough is deflated. Suction catheter with the diameter of less than 1/3 of internal diameter of tracheostomy tube is to be used. Otherwise, there will be respiratory difficulty. There will be partial tube occlusion itself. The catheter, this is the suction catheter. The suction catheter is introduced beyond the inner tube and not more inside to avoid tracheal or bronchial irritation. Multiple eyed catheters are preferred than the whistle tip catheters because they produce less trauma. Whistle tip catheters produce more trauma. The suction catheter should not be inserted more than 3 to 4 centimeters beyond the tracheostomy tube. Lubricated catheter tube is inserted with suction off. The suction is to be kept off when the catheter is introduced. Otherwise, there might be mucosal injury. Then at the end of inspiration, suction is put on and catheter withdrawn in rotating motion. So when the patient breathes out, then you can clean out the secretions. Each suction procedure should last for 10 to 15 seconds. Don't use for long time. Patient will have cough. Instill 0.5 ml of sodium bicarbonate to liquefy the secretions if they are present. Chest is auscultated for confirmation of adequate suctioning. When the chest is clear, then you think that the suction has been adequate, or when there is no conducted sounds. Cough is reinflated to a pressure of 25 mm of mercury and patient is oxygenated again. During the times of suction, patient might have some form of oxygen desaturation because patient is coughing and there will be no oxygen, so you have to oxygenate the patient for some time. This procedure has to be repeated as and when required. Initially, for a few days, the cough has to be deflated for 5 minutes every 2 hours. or as required, and after some time that is not required much. Tracheostomy wound dressing is done twice a day. To keep the wound healthy, a moist gauze piece is placed over the tracheostomy stoma, as I have already described the indication. Steam inhalation is to be taken twice or thrice a day or as required. It helps to maintain humidity and helps to take out the secretions as well. Chest physiotherapy, expectorants and mucolytic agents are continued till the patient has decreased secretions. This was suctioning procedure. First, you have to connect the catheter to the suction machine. Do not touch the end of the catheter that will go into the tracheostomy tube because there might be infection if we touch with the hands. It has to be in aseptic conditions. Insert the catheter the proper distance into the tracheal tube, usually the length of the tracheostomy tube plus 1/4 inch, so should not be more than 3 to 4 centimeters. Apply the suction by putting your thumb over the hole in the catheter while you gently pull the catheter back out. Gently roll the catheter between your thumb and the forefinger as you pull the catheter out. This is very important. So we have to clean from all the areas. And it is better that multiple eyed catheter to be used than the whistle tip catheters. Whistle tip catheters, they cause trauma to the mucosa. The tracheal mucosa and the bronchial mucosa are very delicate mucosa. When to change the tracheostomy tube? Suppose if you are using Portex tracheostomy tube, then that tube has to be kept for at least 5 to 6 days for the proper tract to be made. Otherwise, if you take out the tracheostomy tube, the tract might not be found again and the tube might go to the false tract. If you are using the inner and outer tubes, the inner tube is removed and cleaned when blocked, and outer tube is not removed before 72 hours to allow formation of tracheocutaneous tract. As I had already told, the tract has to be formed, so at least wait for 4 to 5 days. The cuff of Portex tracheostomy tube is deflated for 5 to 10 minutes every 2 hours to prevent pressure necrosis and dilatation of the trachea. But nowadays, as we have high volume, low pressure cuffs, they usually do not cause trauma to the trachea. Then how to decannulate? If our purpose has been completed, when we have done tracheostomy for acute airway obstruction and that is relieved, then we can decannulate. Decannulation can be performed by either plugging or sealing the tube. This is a plug here, tracheostomy plug. And in adults, plug or seal the tube opening. And if tolerated for 24 hours, especially at night time, then we can remove the tube. In children, as they might not tolerate, the size of the tube should be subsequently reduced to the 12 level level and that can be closed. Otherwise, you can simply keep a tape in the tracheostomy stoma and partially block it. So block by incompletely blocking the tube and you can remove when the child tolerates. Then close the wound after decannulation. Most of the times the wound does not require closure. So you can simply apply the tapes over the tracheostomy stoma when the tracheostomy tube has been removed. Healing usually occurs within 1 week and sometimes secondary closure after freezing the wound margin is required, but that is rare. This is the tape and dressing after removing the tracheostomy tube, and this is the plug which has been used. There might be few difficulties in decannulation. The organic causes are persistent of cause requiring tracheostomy. Suppose when there is upper airway obstruction by tumor, then when the tumor is not removed, then there might be persisting obstruction, so we cannot decannulate. Obstructing tracheal granulations, as with the metallic tubes, granulation tissues are common and they might lead to difficulty in decannulation. You should remove the granulations and we can do decannulation. Tracheal edema, because of inflammation, trachea becomes edematous and that also leads to difficulty in decannulation. Subglottic stenosis, when you perform high tracheostomy, there might be subglottic stenosis. As you know, subglottis is the narrowest part of the respiratory tract. Therefore, we should not go for high tracheostomy. Subglottic stenosis is very difficult to treat as well. Collapse of tracheal wall, so-called tracheomalacia. When the patient breathes in, there might be collapse of tracheal wall and there will be difficulty in breathing. That leads to inspiratory stridor or biphasic stridor. Non-organic causes like emotional dependence in children, inability to tolerate the upper airway resistance. Breathing through the tracheostomy is easier than breathing through the mouth because there will be at least a dead space of 150 to 200 ml. Therefore, sometimes the patient might not tolerate upper airway resistance. Incoordination of laryngeal opening reflex. If you are using the tube for longer time, so laryngeal opening might not be coordinated. In that time, patient might not tolerate the decannulation process. And long-standing tube leads to impaired laryngeal development, especially in children. That also might lead to decannulation difficulties. Most of the times, difficulty in decannulation happens in children and not in the adults. Let's discuss about difference between tracheostomy and intubation. Tracheostomy is invasive procedure as the patient requires some sort of surgery. Intubation is non-invasive. We simply intubate through the oral cavity to oropharynx and larynx to trachea. Complications of tracheostomy are more, as we have already discussed. In intubation, there are less complications in comparison to tracheostomy. The advantage of tracheostomy is that the tube can be kept for more than 7 days. And intubation, the tube should not be kept for longer time, more than 10 days, because when the tube is kept for longer time, patient movements will lead to trauma to the trachea. So patient has to be kept under sedatives when the patient is on intubation. In tracheostomy, patient can speak, but in intubation, patient cannot speak. And tracheobronchial toileting is easy in tracheostomy because you can clean time by time. You can use two tubes, outer and the inner tubes. But intubation is difficult. Patient has to undergo suctioning time by time. Tracheostomy decreases the dead space by 30 to 50%. Therefore, it's easy to breathe for the patient. And intubation does not decrease the dead space. There are certain disadvantages of tracheostomy. They are anosmia, because patient doesn't breathe through the nose. Patient breathes through the tracheostomy stoma. So there will be no nasal entry. Patient cannot smell properly. Then aphonia will be there as the patient breathes through the tracheostomy, but that can be avoided by phonatory vent, and different tracheostomy tubes are being used for that. We have already discussed in section 1. Aspiration is avoided by cuffed tracheostomy tube. When the patient is under coma, then there might be aspiration, which can be avoided by cuffed tracheostomy tubes. And in conditions which require chest fixation, like digging, heavy weight lifting, each patient cannot perform those procedures. Patient will be unable to perform the strenuous exercises when the chest fixation is required. Patient cannot perform those exercises. Patient will be unable to swim. This is all regarding tracheostomy. Now we shall discuss about some recent advances, that is percutaneous tracheostomy. Tracheostomy is a life-saving procedure. Therefore, when the patient is already intubated, you can perform tracheostomy by minimal trauma or minimally invasive techniques. That is, one of the techniques is percutaneous tracheostomy. In a simplified way, percutaneous tracheostomy can be performed with puncturing of the trachea with needle and cannula. The needle is removed and a guide wire passed into the trachea via the cannula, and the cannula is removed and graded dilators are passed over the guide wire till the opening can admit a tracheostomy. The procedure seems simple, but practically it's difficult. The simplified procedure is the trachea, and first you have to insert a saline-filled syringe with cannula in the trachea, and if air comes in the syringe, then you are sure that you are on the trachea. Now, remove the syringe and keep a guide wire through the cannula. Once you are sure that the guide wire is in the trachea, then remove the cannula. Now, insert the catheter through the guide wire, then use the dilators as required, dilate the trachea, and advance the preloaded tracheostomy tube over the guide wire, and remove the dilator, guiding catheter, and the guide wire after you keep the tracheostomy tube. Now, next procedure is cricothyrotomy, or called as mini tracheostomy. It's a procedure of insertion of narrow bore tracheostomy tube through the cricothyroid membrane. Its uses are as suction therapy for sputum retention, for bronchial toileting, weaning of intermittent positive pressure ventilation, maintain the stoma parency, for emergency reinsertion of tracheostomy if required, can be used for incipient upper airway obstruction prior to definitive surgery. If you have to perform surgery of the oral cavity, oropharynx, or larynx, then you can use cricothyrotomy for short term. As you know, the mini tracheostomy should not be kept for a longer time. When the patient comes in dire emergency, then you have to provide airway for oxygen delivery. And as an immediate procedure, you can perform cricothyrotomy. But standard tracheostomy has to be performed after some time. This is for time buying purpose. What are the steps of cricothyrotomy or mini tracheostomy? First, palpate the cricothyroid membrane. Make a midline vertical incision. The cricothyroid membrane is incised horizontally with number 11 blade close to the cricoid cartilage. Then insert the knife handle and rotate it by 90 degrees to widen the horizontal opening, and tracheostomy tube is inserted. A basic aim for keeping knife handle is to widen the stoma. Elective tracheostomy is performed as soon as possible to avoid subglottic stenosis, because the tracheostomy tube will be kept in the cricothyroid membrane, so it might injure the cricoid cartilage, which is a complete ring. So there are chances of subglottic stenosis. Therefore, you have to change this into elective tracheostomy as soon as possible. Otherwise, there might be subglottic stenosis. So mini tracheostomy set also is available in the market. It contains a guarded scalpel which allows correct midline incision to be made with minimal risk of damage to the posterior tracheal valve. So this is guarded scalpel. Curved introducer. This is the introducer, as you can see here, which helps in introduction of the cannula. Then thermosensitive blue line cannula, 4 mm ID. This is thermosensitive blue line cannula. Why blue line? Because you can see under radiographic control if the tube is in place or not. This is present in all plastic tracheostomy tubes, like Potex tracheostomy tube also, because sometimes you have to do X-ray to identify the correct location of the tracheostomy tube. Neck tapes for secure fixation of the cannula to the neck are also available in the commercial set. And suction catheter, 10 French. It is a low friction endobronchial catheter for suctioning purpose. This is the catheter. This comes in commercial set, so you can use as mini tracheostomy set. This mini tracheostomy, this is thyroid cartilage, this is cricoid cartilage, so cricothyroid membrane is opened and the tracheostomy tube is kept. Usually small diameter, usually 4 mm diameter, just for time by. So this is called mini tracheostomy. Now let's discuss about anatomical considerations in pediatric tracheostomy, as pediatric tracheostomy is slightly difficult than adult tracheostomy because the structures lie in relatively higher level. The airway and trachea are soft and compressed. So might develop tracheomalacia after surgery. Structures from superior mediastinum are pulled up during neck extension. Therefore, there are more chances of injury to vital organs like the lung apex and the mediastinal structures. Tracheal lumen is small, so you have to keep the silk threads in the trachea as discussed in tracheostomy part 1. Then you have to pull it slightly up and forwards. The trachea is developing. Therefore, if the tube is kept for a longer time, there might be problem with tracheal development. And the larynx is funnel shaped, so there might be more chances of injury to the larynx and there might be subglottic stenosis. Thank you very much. Have a good day and prepare well.